They handed me the last key card in the stack. Not because I arrived late. Because no one thought it mattered where I slept. We gave you the standard inland room, my cousin said, smiling in that careful way people do when they believe they're being generous. It's smaller, but you don't really care about views, right? The lobby was marble and glass and soft ocean light. My aunt adjusted her silk scarf and added, the suites should go to the families with kids. You're alone. You're flexible. Alone. Flexible. Low maintenance. The receptionist glanced at me, briefly, then back at the others who were debating balcony depth and butler service. No one asked my preference. The smallest room had already been decided for me, and I said nothing. Because 6 years ago, I signed a document that changed who decided rooms in this building. They just didn't know it yet. If you've ever been quietly categorized, the easy one, the adaptable one, the one who won't mind, you already understand how this works. My name is Rosalie. In my family, I've always been the calm one, the practical one, the one who doesn't compete over square footage or status symbols. What they see is simplicity. What they don't see is ownership. And tonight, as they compared suite upgrades and ocean angles under the chandelier I personally approved during renovation, I let them continue building a narrative about me that was about to expire. Because perception has a shelf life. And theirs was almost up. I travel light. No entourage. No branded luggage screaming for attention. A single structured carry-on and a linen blazer that looks expensive only if you know fabric. My family, on the other hand, arrives like a production crew. Monogrammed trunks. Garment bags. My uncle loudly reminding the concierge that they usually stay in higher-tier properties. My cousin comparing this lobby to another resort in Cabo, incorrectly. They assume I work remotely. Something consulting adjacent. Flexible income. Comfortable, but not commanding. At holidays, they ask if I'm still doing that hotel thing. I always answer yes. They've never asked what that means. 6 years ago, when this property was bleeding cash and quietly listed off-market, I bought it through a holding company no one in my family would recognize. The first year was brutal. Staff turnover, supplier renegotiations, structural repairs they had covered with decorative lighting. Now it's the flagship of an 11-property luxury portfolio. But I don't correct assumptions at dinner tables. I study them. In this lobby, as my relatives debated which wing had better prestige, I noticed something else. The general manager hadn't come out to greet us yet. That was unusual. Because whenever I step into one of my properties unannounced, someone always notices before I do. Tonight, he hadn't. Which meant one of two things. Either he didn't know I was here, or he was waiting. The suite assignments became a strategy meeting. My aunt stood near the concierge desk like she was negotiating a merger. The Ocean Grand should go to Daniel and Myra. They have the baby. She lowered her voice slightly. Rosalie won't mind the standard category. Won't mind. The receptionist hesitated. We do have availability in the Coastal Junior. It's fine, my cousin interrupted. Give her the Inland Classic. She's barely in the room anyway. Barely in the room. As if presence is determined by luggage weight. Keys were distributed with ceremony. Ocean front. Premium corner. Terrace access. Champagne delivery requested. Spa credits applied. When my turn came, the card was slid toward me without eye contact. Inland Classic. 3rd floor. No balcony. It was presented like efficiency. Logical distribution of value. No one asked whether I preferred something else. No one considered that I might. The hierarchy had already been drawn. Families first, status second, singles last. I took the key. Perfect, I said evenly, and that single word settled it. What they didn't realize was that the Inland Classic category technically no longer existed. It had been phased out during renovation, which meant one thing. Someone had just overridden a system decision to put me there. The group chat renamed itself before we even reached the elevators. Family Luxury Weekend Waterwave Sparkles. Photos started immediately. Ocean views. Suite entry videos. My cousin doing a slow pan across her marble bathroom with a caption, "Worth the upgrade." Then, casually, "Daniel, we gave Rosalie the simple room. She's chill about that stuff." Myra, yeah, she hates attention anyway, faced with tears of joy. My aunt, she's always been low maintenance. Thank God. Low maintenance. As if preference equals burden. Someone added, honestly, she'd be uncomfortable in a suite. A digital agreement followed. Thumbs up, laughing emojis, affirmation through repetition. The narrative was building in real time. Not cruel. Not overt. Just softly diminishing. She doesn't need much. She's independent. She doesn't care about luxury. I watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear. They weren't trying to insult me. They were simplifying me. And simplification is the most socially acceptable form of reduction. When the receptionist escorted them toward the private elevator reserved for premium guests, I noticed something else. My name wasn't on the welcome screen in the lobby. That screen always cycles VIP arrivals. Tonight, it read, Welcome, the Aurora family, which meant the reservation was centralized under one master booking, which meant whoever organized this had chosen how the hierarchy would display publicly, and they had placed me at the bottom of it. What they didn't know, the booking wasn't just centralized, it was traceable. I didn't respond in the group chat. I didn't correct the narrative. I didn't request a room change. I didn't look at the receptionist twice. Silence is uncomfortable for people who expect reassurance. By the time we reached the elevator bank, Myra leaned toward me. You're okay with it, right? I just didn't want anyone feeling weird. Feeling weird? I held her gaze long enough to remove the need for her smile. I'm fine, I said. Not warm. Not cold. Just accurate. Inside the mirrored elevator, everyone admired their reflection in the brass trim. Daniel adjusted his collar like the room category had already elevated him socially. I watched the floor numbers rise. 3rd floor for me. 7th for them. When the doors opened on my level, the hallway lighting was slightly dimmer than I remembered. I noticed the centrifuger was the older blend, not the updated coastal amber installed during the final renovation phase. That confirmed it. Someone had manually reassigned inventory. The Inland Classic rooms were supposed to be off rotation, held for internal use during peak capacity. I stepped inside. The room was clean. Tasteful. Smaller, yes, but intentionally so. The city view stretched toward the parking structure. I set my bag down slowly. No anger, just recalibration. Because there's a difference between being placed somewhere and allowing it to define you. I took out my phone. Not to argue. To confirm something. Upstairs, celebration had already begun. By the time I opened the live feed from the terrace camera, one of several operational dashboards I still had access to, Daniel was filming a champagne pour against the ocean backdrop. Caption: finally staying somewhere that understands premium. The irony didn't require commentary. In the group chat, my aunt wrote, "This is what hard work earns you." Hard work. Daniel had leveraged a corporate travel discount. Myra had called twice to request complimentary consideration. My uncle had mentioned online reviews within the first 3 minutes of check-in. But in their minds, the suite validated them. Status feels earned when it's visible. Someone asked if I wanted to join them upstairs for sunset. Before I could respond, Myra replied for me, she's probably unpacking. She likes her quiet time. The assumption landed cleanly, efficiently. They were comfortable now. Confident. The hierarchy felt stable. Ocean views above. City view below. Families centered. Singles peripheral. And because I hadn't objected, the structure seemed morally sound. That's the thing about social architecture. Once everyone agrees on it, it feels permanent. Upstairs, Daniel toasted to leveling up. Downstairs, I reviewed the occupancy log and noticed something they hadn't. The presidential suite had just been marked reserved, internal authorization, under a name they had never bothered to learn fully. Rosalie V. Armand. I didn't call the front desk. I called the regional line. It rang once. Good evening, the voice answered, immediately formal. This is Adrian. I'm on property, I said. Calm, neutral, unannounced. A pause, not of confusion, but recalibration. Yes, Ms. Armand. No questions. No surprise. Send me the live allocation summary for the Aurora master booking, I continued. And tell me who manually reopened Inland Classic inventory. Understood. I walked toward the window. The city lights were steady, indifferent. Within 30 seconds, my inbox refreshed. Manual override authorized at 4:12 p.m. Requested by guest Daniel Aurora. Approved by front desk supervisor. I studied the timestamp. He had specifically requested the cheapest category for me. Not assigned by accident. Requested. Also, I added quietly, prepare the presidential suite. Another pause, smaller this time. For tonight, Ms. Armand. Yes. And the Aurora booking. Leave it as is. Silence on the other end. Respectful. Contained. Understood. I ended the call. Upstairs, laughter carried faintly through the terrace audio feed. They were still debating who deserved the best ocean angle. They had no idea the dynamic had already shifted. Not loudly, not publicly, but structurally. And structure is what decides who actually owns the view. It started subtly. At 6:40 p.m., Daniel attempted to charge a private Sunset Yacht add-on to the master booking. Declined. Not publicly. Not dramatically. Just a polite notification from concierge. We're unable to extend additional premium privileges at this time. Please see management for clarification. Confusion replaced confidence almost instantly. In the group chat. Daniel, that's weird. Must be a system error. Myra, ask them again. Mention the review thing. Aunt, tell them we're in the Ocean Grand. He went down personally. I watched through the lobby feed as the front desk supervisor straightened her posture when he approached. His tone was friendly at first. Assumptive. There's clearly been a mistake. The supervisor smiled. Professional. Neutral. Sir, the booking is classified under standard tier privileges. Premium extensions require executive authorization. Executive authorization. He blinked. But we're in suites. Yes, sir. Then authorize it. I'm afraid I'm not permitted to. The shift was microscopic, but visible. For the first time that evening, he wasn't being accommodated. Upstairs, Myra texted. What's taking so long? Downstairs, Daniel lowered his voice. Who can authorize it? The supervisor glanced briefly toward the elevator corridor. Management is reviewing allocations for this booking. Reviewing allocations. Plural. Daniel's posture changed. Because suddenly, their status wasn't assumed. It was being assessed, and no one had asked them for additional payment yet. Which meant the review wasn't about money. It was about permission. Upstairs, the sunset had already begun, and the ocean view felt slightly less secure. At 7:02 p.m., the lobby doors opened. Adrian didn't rush. He never does. Dark suit. No tie. Tablet in hand. Controlled stride. The kind of presence that doesn't demand silence. It produces it. The front desk supervisor stepped slightly aside when he approached Daniel. Good evening, Adrian said evenly. I understand there's a question regarding your booking. Daniel straightened, relieved. Yes, we're in the Ocean Grand Suites, but apparently we don't qualify for premium privileges. Adrian glanced at his tablet. Your master reservation is categorized under standard tier. That can't be right. It is correct. Come. Factual. No edge. Myra had come down now too, hovering slightly behind Daniel. My aunt followed moments later, sensing importance. Adrian continued. Suite upgrades were granted based on availability. However, tier benefits remain aligned with original booking classification. Daniel forced a small laugh. So just reclassify it. Adrian's gaze lifted from the tablet. I don't have the authority to alter tier designation without ownership approval. Ownership. The word didn't echo loudly, but it landed. My aunt blinked. Ownership? For a yacht charge? For any structural privilege modification, Adrian replied. Daniel folded his arms. Then call them. Adrian paused, not hesitating. Timing. They are already on property. Silence spread outward from that sentence. Not dramatic, just precise. And for the first time that evening, Daniel stopped speaking first. The elevator doors opened softly. I didn't step out immediately. Timing isn't about drama. It's about alignment. When I entered the lobby, Adrian turned first, not in surprise, but in acknowledgement. Good evening, Ms. Armand. Formal. Clear. Unmistakable. My family followed his gaze. Recognition didn't arrive all at once. It unfolded. Daniel frowned slightly. Rosalie, what's going on? Adrian shifted his stance. Subtle. Deferential. For clarity, he said calmly, Rosalie Valerie Armand is the principal owner of this property and the Armand Coastal Collection. Silence. Not confusion. Processing. My aunt's posture changed first. Shoulders tightening as if correcting something invisible. Adrian continued. She acquired this hotel 6 years ago and oversaw its redevelopment. It is the flagship property within her 11-location portfolio. No emphasis. No flourish. Just fact delivery. Daniel looked at me like I had switched languages mid-sentence. You own this? I do. Not defensive. Not proud. Just accurate. Myra's eyes flickered toward the lobby signage. The marble. The chandelier. Details rearranged themselves in real time. Adrian added one final sentence. Clinically precise. All executive authorization requests route through Ms. Armand. The hierarchy didn't flip. It clarified. And for the first time that evening, no one in my family spoke over me. Silence has weight. In the lobby, it settled slowly, not dramatic, not explosive, just undeniable. Daniel uncrossed his arms. Myra stepped half a pace back, recalculating every sentence she'd sent that afternoon. My aunt's mouth opened slightly, then closed. She wasn't searching for an apology yet. She was searching for context. The receptionist, who had avoided eye contact earlier, now stood perfectly aligned, posture sharpened, expression attentive. It wasn't embarrassment that filled the space. It was restructuring. Every small assumption they had made began replaying behind their eyes. She won't mind. She's low maintenance. She doesn't care about luxury. Those sentences didn't sound generous anymore. They sounded uninformed. Daniel cleared his throat. Why didn't you say anything? It wasn't accusation. It was destabilization. I looked at him steadily. You didn't ask. No edge. No performance. Just a simple correction. The silence deepened, but it had changed in texture. It was no longer theirs. Daniel attempted a small smile, the kind people use when they're trying to convert shock into humor. Okay, well, that explains a lot. It explains the yacht, Myra added quickly. We didn't realize. You didn't need to, I said gently. That stopped them. Not because it was harsh. Because it removed their excuse. I stepped slightly closer to the desk. Not toward them. Toward structure. The room assignments weren't the issue, I continued evenly. What stood out was the certainty. My aunt blinked. Certainty. That I wouldn't care. That I wouldn't notice. That I didn't belong in the decision. No raised voice. Just clarity. I didn't mention the group chat. I didn't mention the manual override. I didn't need to. The interesting thing about ownership, I added, is that it doesn't require visibility to function. Adrian remained still beside us. Daniel exhaled slowly. We thought you preferred simple. I do, I said. A beat. But preference isn't the same as permission. The sentence settled cleanly between us. Not accusatory. Educational. And for the first time that evening, they weren't trying to elevate themselves. They were trying to understand the structure they had misread. Adrian waited for instruction. He didn't look at me directly. That would have made it performative. He simply remained available. Daniel's voice had softened. So, what happens now? A practical question. Not entitled. Not defensive. Just uncertain. I could have reclassified their booking. I could have downgraded every suite to original tier. I could have applied the correct billing adjustments for unauthorized privilege extensions. All of it would have been justified. Instead, I turned to Adrian. Restore their premium privileges for the weekend. 3 faces lifted at once. And ensure the yacht is cleared, I added. Under the appropriate billing structure. Yes, Ms. Armand. Professional. Efficient. My aunt blinked. You're keeping us in the suites? Yes. Myra looked almost relieved. That's very generous. It's not generosity, I said calmly. They paused. It's alignment. The rooms fit the experience you wanted. There's no reason to reduce it. I let the next sentence land carefully. But future allocations will not be decided on my behalf. Boundary, not punishment. Daniel nodded first. Not because he felt forgiven. Because he understood. I glanced toward the elevator. Also, I said lightly, have the presidential suite prepared. Adrian's expression didn't change. It's ready, Ms. Armand. Of course it was. Because some rooms aren't assigned. They reserved. The group chat went quiet for nearly 12 minutes. Then, Myra, Rosalie, I'm sorry. That wasn't fair. Daniel, we should have asked you. My aunt didn't type at first. She called. Her voice carried something unfamiliar. Not authority, not correction. Respect. I didn't realize, she said carefully. You've built something extraordinary. Thank you, I replied. No elaboration. Upstairs, the terrace energy had shifted. The laughter was softer. The comparisons had stopped. When I joined them later, not as an entrance, just as presence, Daniel moved slightly to make space beside the best view. No announcement. No spotlight. Just adjustment. Myra asked about the renovation timeline. My uncle wanted to know how acquisitions worked. My aunt listened more than she spoke. The ocean looked the same, but the seating arrangement had changed. And this time, no one decided it for me. Later that night, I stepped into the presidential suite alone. Floor-to-ceiling glass. Private terrace. The ocean stretched outward without interruption, not because I demanded it, but because I built the structure that made it possible. On the console table near the entrance, a small plaque rested discreetly in its usual place. Reserved. Avi Armand. It had been there for years. I rarely used the suite when visiting. I preferred to move quietly through my properties, observing without ceremony. Tonight felt different. Not because they found out, but because they finally recalibrated. Ownership isn't volume. It isn't spectacle. It's the ability to alter outcomes without raising your voice. 6 years ago, I signed the acquisition papers for a failing hotel no one believed in. This week, I finalized 2 new resort purchases while my family debated whether I qualified for an ocean view. Power doesn't announce itself. It waits. And when the moment comes, it doesn't escalate. It clarifies.